Have you ever wanted to see what other dungeon masters do as far as preparing for their game sessions? If so, this video is going to be for you. This is going to be Beginner's Guide to Dungeons & Dragons, preparing for your game sessions. Hi guys, I'm DM Dunn, and today I'm going to show you how I prepare for my upcoming game sessions with my players. The exciting thing is even though the world is a little bit crazy right now, my players we're all comfortable enough to the point, and we've taken safety measures where we still are now meeting in person. And so that's what I'm going to be talking about, is how to prepare for your in-person game sessions today. So the first thing that you're going to want to do is you're going to want to review the storyline and the plot points that your players' characters are currently involved with and where they're going. So they're going to happen two ways. Either A, you're going to be using a module which is already made for you, so obviously you're going to have to read all of the details maybe a couple of times so that you fully got it. Jot down some notes if you need to, underline, highlight parts in here if you want them. This is obviously, it's not a school book. You can keep this, and so you can write in here if you want to, so don't be afraid to do that. But that's what you're going to want to do. So if you're using a module, it makes it a little bit easier, maybe a little bit less time consuming, because most of the hard work is already done unless you want to make modifications, changes, additions to it, versus if you're doing it homebrew, then of course you've got to create and continue and elaborate on the plot points and the storyline that your players' characters are currently involved with. So figure out what's going to be happening, where they're going, what they're going to be doing. Hopefully they've given you some ideas from the end of the previous session of where they're trying to go, though. And then the next thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to try to come up with some encounters that your players might actually fall into or go into, or accidentally stumble upon. And you're also going to want to figure out what and how many of each bad guy that you're going to want in these battles. If you're going to be doing battles, right? Encounters are one thing, but battles and fights and combat is another. So if you're not using a television screen, you're going to want to choose your battle mats, or if you're just using the tile system, whatever it is that you're going to be using, you want to have those. I personally, when I was using it, not a TV, I liked the battle mats. I'll put a link in the description below to the battle mats that I use. It's actually just 2 battle mats that are double-sided, so it's 4 different battle mats that you can flip through and use in multiple different situations. So I'll show you guys what I used for that one. And then once you figure out what the battle mat is, like if it's going to be grass, or if it's going to be like gray dungeon tiles, or whatever it's going to be, then you're going to want to decide on the terrain setup. The 3-dimensional crafts that you've worked on, or that you need to work on, or that you would like to get, so you can put on there to liven it up as well too. So for example, trees, like I'm going to be preparing a misty forest, and that's where my players are currently going into, so that's what I'm going to be preparing for this upcoming session. And so I'm going to be putting a bunch of trees on top of my tabletop, even though I'm going to have a tree map as well. I'll put a link over here to the video where I show you how to build trees. And I'll make a note too, is in that video I talk about multiple different types of trees. So like really skinny swamp trees, really big trunked trees, and pine trees as well. And I'm probably going to use all of those on my battle mat. Even though it's like a normal forest, it's not swamp, but it's still going to give the visual look that there's lots of trees and lots of movement and lots of stuff that they can hide behind, and really kind of give a lot of more interesting look to it. So don't be afraid to versatilely use all of the stuff that you make as often as you can, and that's the point of trying to make stuff that's versatile, so you can use it in many, many different things. After that, you're going to want to figure out, like for example, the bad guys. I like to have actual minis. My players get minis for their characters. I like to have minis for the bad guys. I'm building terrain, so I like to have stuff as 3-dimensional as I can. So when you're starting out, you can either try to buy the minis. The nice thing is, if you can afford to, then you'll have those minis forever, and you can keep using them over and over again. So that, the next time, let's say maybe you finish a module as your starter, as your starting campaign, and then you start doing a homebrew campaign. Well, the cool thing is, in your homebrew, you can start creating battles or fights that involve minis that you've already purchased. And so you can reuse them again. If you're lucky enough to get a 3D printer or know somebody that has one, have access to it, then you can print minis much more cheaply than buying them as well. So there's lots of different options nowadays, but I like to have the miniatures. And then obviously try to paint them if you can. They're not always going to be painted. I have a link here to where I show you how to paint in batches, like painting 12 cultists in less than 2 days to try to get ready for an upcoming battle. And that's one of the things that I did for this week, for this adventure, is I painted 12 minis that, depending on how fast I guess my players go, they might see them, but they might not, because I always tend to over-prepare, which is another good thing to do, is try to over-prepare. And the nice thing is, if you prepare for too much and your players don't involve all of it, it makes your next preparation that much easier because you already have stuff checked off the list. You've already got the minis. You've already got the minis painted. You've already got the storyline figured out. So it just makes it a little bit quicker and easier if you're over-preparing or your players just, get slowed down for some reason. They don't get all the way to the end. And what I like to do to try to get myself faster at the game table is I already know what bad guys are going to fight, and if I know how many they're going to fight, I'll do an example. For example, in this forest that they're going to come to, they're going to run into some ettercaps and some giant spiders. And so they're going to have 4 ettercaps and 5 giant spiders. So I just write ettercaps, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, giant spiders, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I'll put their starting hit points. And then that way, I know as we're playing, I can say, oh, that one took 16 damage, got it. And then I can do the math. And I have it all nice and fast and easy right here, and I can track all the bad guys at one time. And then I'll put their armor class maybe. And then up here at the top, here's an example of like the player's initiative order with my monsters. So I can just write them in there, just go down the line and start back over like a typewriter. Ding, ding. So that's what I like to do, just makes it easy. Having a pencil, a big eraser ready to roll. And then I also like to have a couple of things ready. I like to have for my monsters, I like to have these cards because they're super handy to have and makes it a lot easier. Has all of the stats and everything on there. Any weaknesses, vulnerabilities, immunities, and also all of their stats. So I like to have all of these. Unfortunately, these don't have every single monster that you could possibly have, but they have most of them. So if you find a monster, or you're going to use a monster that's not in these decks, then you can pull up your computer, your tablet, your phone. I don't like the phone because it's too small, but whatever, and have a tab open. You get to go 5E Ettercap, and then boop, you can pull it up. You can have that tab open, and you can look at your stats for the Ettercap and just toggle between and do it that way as well. I also really like to have at my Dungeon Master spot the Dungeon Master screen, not just because it looks cool, which it does, but mostly because it gives me really fast reference to a lot of stats that I might need access to, and conditions and things like that. It just gives me a quick place to look it up versus trying to thumb through the player's handbook, which is another good thing to have, is your player's handbook, because maybe your players' characters and your players are trying to do something that you're not quite sure on. Well, can your barbarian actually do that? And then you can look it up, or you can ask them to look it up. How much? Oh, I want to buy, I want to buy a shovel. Oh, how much does a shovel cost? It'll be in here too. So having this available for quick references, and if you have them and you like to have access to them, having your monster manual and Dungeon Master guide is also nice to have quick and easy availability as well. Okay, so those are some things to have prepared. Obviously your dice, right? To have prepared. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and show you the game map that I'm going to use, and the digital map. And then what I'll do is I'll go ahead and I'll set it all up, and I'll cut and I'll show you that. And if I can remember, I'll try to take some photos during gameplay, but I always forget. But if I happen to get some of those photos, I'll try to put some of those photos in as well too. So the digital game map that I'm going to be using is from Dynamic Dungeons, which I really like. I think they're pretty awesome. But you'll see that, and then you'll see how I embellish it with my actual trees and things like that. So take a look. Alright guys, I hope this video helped you to be able to figure out an easy, more succinct way to prepare for your upcoming game sessions and maybe make it a little bit easier for you and less confusing and more, instead of being overbearing, it's like, oh yeah, I can do these steps and then I'll be ready to roll for my battle, and my games will look even more cool by using all these three-dimensional things as well too. So guys, we thank you so very much, and if you like the video, do us a favor, hit the thumbs up, like the video, become a subscriber. That really helps us out as well too. There's going to be plenty of links down below for some of the things that I use as well. If you guys want to click those to our affiliate Amazon link, that helps us as well. Also, we get a little bit of a commission if you guys choose to buy that by going through our link. So please do so. You can also help us by becoming a Patreon, which is awesome. We love all of our Patreons. And guys, until next time, have more D&D fun with DM Done.